Hey guys, I'm Eddie with LRM Leasing. Now, one of the biggest changes we've seen in the trucking industry in the last few years is the shift of demand from manual transmission trucks to automatic transmission trucks. Now, the truth is, there is no right or wrong choice when choosing a transmission type. It's a preference, but it is important to understand some of the technical differences and financial differences between both. Now with the manual trucks, everyone knows they've been around forever. They get the job done. Driver is in complete control of when to shift gears. And basically that's why they like the manual trucks, because they get to shift gears, especially if you know you're riding up a mountain and you're going 35 miles an hour. That's what you want to do. The great thing is diagnosis and repair are affordable and quick. There are no complicated computers, sensors, or wiring to make sense of. Now with an automatic truck, it's a little bit different. They've become more and more popular. More and more CDL training schools are teaching their students on automatic transmissions, thus creating a larger employment talent pool for automatic transmission. Arguably a little bit less distracting to the driver. They do not need to focus on shifting, so they can just focus on driving. And as we know, when you're driving a manual truck, you're all over the place. I call it the 1,000,001 things that you're doing. But the automatic trucks, better fuel for mileage. Due to the computer controlling the gears and peak efficiency, they have been able to get more miles per gallon. Now, of course, there's always a con to everything. If you only know how to drive an automatic transmission, you will limit your job opportunities with companies offering manual transmission trucks. Now, with the automatic truck, it is extremely expensive to repair and diagnose. Let's look at a manual transmission versus an automatic transmission.
Hello, my name is Steve with LRM Leasing. I'm here to tell you a little bit about the transmissions that are in some of our trucks, especially ours. We have a DT12 Detroit transmission, automatic, and then we have the one that everybody's pretty most common with, or the Eaton manual transmission, which can also be converted to an automatic. They're pretty much the same, only top difference is the top part and of course computer components on the transmission. So just to go over a few steps, we're gonna go over the automatic, which is made by Detroit. The few things that we have seen so far that come through the shop are the TCM issues, and then sometimes the shift controller. Other than that, the transmission, that's about the only issues that we've seen so far. Now, when it comes with a transmission failure, you gotta be prepared. They're gonna be expensive for an automatic. It rides smooth, it shifts beautifully, it'll definitely do what you want it to do. The only thing that would really hurt it is if you do not check the oil in these transmissions. If you don't check it, it's gonna throw codes, it's gonna overheat, and it's gonna cost you thousands of dollars to replace, because these you can't rebuild yet. So on your automatic, this is your TCM, this is the computer for the transmission. And then this whole outside area that's bolted to it, the computer's bolted to it, is actually your shifter controller. And that's pretty much about it. Then you have some sensors here, and then your speed sensor is sitting back here on the tail shaft. So when it comes to maintenance, there's very little things you have to do, but when you do your oil change, we want to make sure that whoever's servicing your vehicle checks the transmission, the differentials, and of course the engine. Oil is a big thing on these things. So the plug is on this side, on the passenger side of the truck, and there's a plug. All they want to do is just make sure that oil is at least slowly seeping out, and then you're good to go. And these usually all have synthetic oil. And then on the driver's side, there's gonna be an airline connection right here. This airline connection, just make sure it's properly connected and it's not leaking air. If you're leaking air, you will get a code for low air pressure. And then replace the line. Once you got proper air pressure, it's gonna shift properly, and it's just regular maintenance. And then the last thing, if you have where you have some hard shifting and it's going erratic, there's a filter here. You pull the plug, make sure it's not full of metal, and make sure it gets cleaned out once in a while. I would probably do every other oil change. Now here's our Eaton transmission, which everybody's very familiar with by now. So this is a 10-speed that I have up here. I was going through it. Matter of fact, this was an issue with little overheating. There was 2 gears I had to replace. With these kind of transmissions, they're a little bit easier to maintain and also cheaper to fix. You're still spending a few thousand, but you're talking about anywhere between 12 to 5 compared to anywhere between 9 to 15,000 for a transmission for an automatic. Now, the Eatons are set up for automatics. They can be interchangeable in that case. The only difference is that you'll have a XY shifter on the top and a computer mounted on the side. Other than that, the internals are pretty much the same. And the same difference, it'll protect itself when it's an automatic. You wouldn't have to worry about, stripping out gears or anything like that because the computer takes control. The only thing that would hurt it at that point is because of lack of oil, not being checked during your oil changes. So that's a big thing. You have to check these transmissions. So, and this one was a manual, and just from normal wear and tear, the sliding clutch kept popping out. So I ended up replacing all the sliding clutch and one main gear in this box. So on this transmission, there's a few things. You have your reverse switch here, which is a sensor. And then you have your module up here that allows you to switch from high to low. You want to make sure there's no air leaks here on the tail shaft. This is your speed sensor. Usually you'll have 2 ports here. Those will go to your oil cooler lines. And this is the plug where you would check the level of fluid in your transmission. So on our Eaton, for maintenance on this is pretty much a very simple thing. Just make sure it's never leaking oil. And it usually leaks right here on the back side, which would be your rear seal, the output shaft seal. And then if you're leaking anything in the front on the ground, because if you start losing oil from the transmission, it'll overheat and that's gonna cause havoc. It's gonna burn up gears and it's gonna cost a lot of money. So just always make sure that anything that's around the transmission that it's not leaking and it's taken care of right away. You'll see 2 ports on this side, which goes to an oil cooler. Believe it or not, the oil cooler lines is what you want to check. Make sure they're tight and make sure they're not leaking. Because if the oil is leaking, your transmission will lose the oil, then it'll start to overheat. And then again, the plug will be right here. Once you do the plug, this one's gonna be on the driver's side. You pull the plug again, just until you see a little bit of oil come out, and then put it back in. And again, I would put synthetic oil in these transmissions. And that's what we have for these 2 styles of transmission.
All right, guys, at the end of the day, there is no right or wrong decision when choosing an automatic or manual transmission truck. It's a preference. And the truth is, whatever you or your driver are most comfortable in and can operate most safely is probably the right choice. If you have any questions about our automatic versus our manual transmissions, please let us know and leave a comment below.